Happy to introduce to you your two fabulous presenters. Sylvia Ramirez is a professor emeritus at Miracosta College. She has many years of teaching experience in adult ESL, including multi-level vocational, family literacy, distance learning, and transition courses. She's also a teacher educator, a writer, and a consultant. And Lori Howard is also a longtime ESL teacher, coordinator of ESL programs, and author. And she is currently working for CASAS as a program specialist coordinator on the WIA grants. So they are here to share with us their knowledge and experience about college and career readiness standards for ESL learners. Lori and Sylvia.
Thank you, Marion. I'm Lori, and Sylvia and I are excited to have you participating in this webinar. The first thing we're going to do is review our objectives. And we want to tell you that this webinar is a first step in understanding the college and career readiness standards. We hope it will give you some basic information about the standards and help you become familiar with them while providing a stepping off place for further training. Today, by the end of the session, you'll be able to demonstrate understanding of reading and writing college and career readiness anchor standards, select activities from published materials that address the anchor standards, and develop additional supplementary activities that address the anchor standards. Here's our agenda for today, and we just want to mention that we may not be able to answer all of your questions during the webinar, but we will review the chat after the webinar, and we'll answer in writing and ask CALPRO to send you any answers for anything that we didn't get to today. So those of you who logged in early, you had a chance to look at our acronyms or alphabet soup, and that was your warm-up for today. We are going to have the opportunity to review those acronyms as we go along. You will be seeing them or hearing about them in the presentation when Sylvia gives you an overview of the CCSS and CCR, the CCSS being the Common Core State Standards, and the CCR, the College and Career Readiness Standards for adults. As part of our presentation, we'll be doing a demonstration for you of the practice activities that you'll be doing. And the practice will be using published materials to address CCR reading and writing standards. The application will be exactly the same, so we're going to assign for homework and ask you to use your own material, to analyze your own materials to address the CCR reading and writing standards. So we hope this will be very usable for you today. Marion told you a little bit about us, and now we want to get to know a little bit about you. So Marion's going to put up the poll, and we'd like you to fill in these 3 chat boxes on the right, telling your position, your familiarity with CCR, and CCR implementation. If you could just check the appropriate boxes, we'll give you about 10 seconds for that.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Great representation of teachers, and we have a couple other roles, some new to CCR, and one person who could probably present with us. And then that's where we're seeing everywhere that you're just beginning to discuss it or not doing it yet. So we hope this will be very timely for you. And now let's move to a little presentation. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the College and Career Readiness Standards and the Common Core State Standards. And I think you've already gotten those 2 abbreviations. And then watch for other abbreviations throughout this mini presentation. CCSS is the K through 12 initiative. These standards build on the curriculum established in many states to provide a clear understanding of what students are expected to learn for success in college and careers. It was backward build-up. They set the standards and then they figured out what the grades needed to do to get there. There's widespread consensus among K through 12 educators, with 45 states and the District of Columbia adopting them because they're research and evidence-based, they're aligned with college and work expectations, they include rigorous content and application of knowledge through higher order skills, they build upon strengths and lessons of current state standards, and they've been informed by top performing countries, so our students are prepared to succeed in a global economy. The standards are organized by reading, where there's more complex text, a focus on academic vocabulary, and increased use of reading strategies to improve comprehension. Writing with diverse text types and evidence-based writing. Speaking and listening, emphasizing team collaboration and presentations to mirror what is done in college and career settings. And of course, grammar. And then there's also 3 foundation standards. So from the very beginning, how to get our students ready. So the foundation of the Common Core State Standards are the college and career anchor standards. You can think of these as broad answers to the questions, what do our students need to be college and career ready? Here's 2 examples of these broad anchor standards. The reading standard that focuses, this is Reading Anchor 2, and it's focusing on those key ideas and the supporting details for those main ideas. And then the writing standard, Anchor 5, that's talking about the writing process. These are the 2 standards we are going to be working with today. Now, the anchor standards are also the basis for the college and career readiness standards that were developed in 2013. So no wonder this is all so new to us. These are not 2 different sets of standards. The CCSS standards are for K through 12, and the CCR standards are for the foundation. CCR standards are for adult education. And remember that the basis for both are the college and career anchor standards. OCTAE, the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. Did you get that abbreviation? It used to be called OVE. They funded this initiative because they wanted to develop appropriate college and career standards for adult education. And they wanted to build on the consensus that was already established by CCSS. So they hired Susan Pimentel, who's the lead author of the ELA, English Language Arts Standards, with the Common Core State Standards, to work with a panel of adult educators. Their task was to rigorously review the anchor standards and decide which were appropriate for adults. They did not revise or rewrite any of the standards. Why are these standards important? Well, we know there's a high number of our adults who do not have a high school diploma, GED, or high school equivalency. And also double the number of jobs in the next 10 years will require some form of post-secondary credential. And most importantly, at least to me, our students need to earn a living wage, not a minimum wage. Here in San Diego County, the minimum wage is $8, but students need to earn almost $12 to earn a living wage. And our adult educators ask for a manageable set of standards. The CCS standards cover K through 12, 13 years of education, and our adults don't stay with us that long. But our adults may have limited language skills, but they have a wealth of life experience in making some of the Common Core State Standards unnecessary. So standards don't tell you what to teach. Standards tell you what to teach, but not how to teach it. But there are shifts in instruction. So one of the important shifts is complexity. Regular practice with complex text and its academic language. It's not just a focus on how students read, but also the complexity of the text. Research has found that there's a 4-year gap between high school and college text complexity. Understanding what makes text complex and how to add rich text to our curriculum will be a focus of another workshop. Another key shift is in evidence. Reading, writing, and speaking are grounded in evidence from text. Most college and workplace writing requires evidence. There's a shift here from discourse, opinions, what do you think, to an emphasis on informed opinions based on evidence. Often in ESL, at least I would move from the text to some basic comprehension questions to asking my students how they felt about the topic. But we know now we need to ensure our students are answering text-dependent questions that require more evidence-based comprehension. This actually levels the learning because all students are using the same information to provide their answer. It also helps them to be more proficient users of information in their daily lives. Again, this would be a further professional development activity where teachers learn to develop rich text-dependent questions that require students to dig deeply in their material. And the final shift is knowledge. There's a special emphasis on comprehension of informational text. Nonfiction makes up the vast majority of required reading in college and the workplace. And informational text is harder for students to comprehend. From my own experience of sharing these CCR standards with teachers, there's been a lot of consensus about how these standards represent sound teaching principles, and teachers seem to believe that there's agreement about what students need to be successful for college and the workplace. They're not a mandate, a national or federal curriculum. They don't indicate a hierarchy of importance, and they don't dictate how you're actually going to teach them in the classroom. And unfortunately, they don't address the complete support needed for English language learners. And that's why we're going to be working with some ESL text materials today. And the list isn't exhaustive. So the grade levels, the CCR groupings are not based on grade levels. They're based on groupings that you see over here on the left-hand column. Grouping A, B, C, D, and E. One way to get a sense of where your students may place in the 5 levels of learning is to look at this preliminary alignment chart of CASA CSL and ABE levels with NRS and CCR adult education levels. And I'm going to move to the next slide so you can see a little more clearly with ESL. A is covering your beginning levels, low intermediate, high intermediate, advanced, and E is more focusing on adult secondary education. It's the goal you want to get to. For our purposes today, we're going to focus on CCR groupings A through D. And here's that same anchor standard that we showed you before about determining the central idea, themes of the text. And then notice there's level-specific standards for each grouping. And also notice that they make a continuum of skill building with the level-specific standards of providing appropriate scaffolding to reach the anchor standard goal. And finally, CCR promotes this writing-reading connection. Specifically, Writing Standard 9 stresses the importance of this connection. And research has shown that when you integrate these skills, students read and they write better. So again today, we're going to be working with both these reading and writing standards.
Okay, so Sylvia has given you a great background information on the college and career readiness standards. And now we want you to actually work with the standards. So you will complete the webinar today knowing how you can integrate a few basic standards into instruction with your learners. Our purpose today is to give you a demonstration and then let you practice using some CCR standards and analyzing some ESL materials in relation to those standards. It's not important that you finish every activity today, but that you get a feel for how to do the process so that you can do this process with materials in your own classroom or help others at your agency to use it. As part of the practice, we'll be asking you to look at published materials. And as Sylvia mentioned, the reason is that you or your teachers at your agency are probably using published materials that are designed specifically for ESL students. As Sylvia said, the standards were written for ABE and ASE students, not ESL students. So we want you to see how ESL published materials, which do support ESL students, match the standards and what needs to be supplemented. And just so you know, Sylvia and I are using materials that we've written, so we don't have to worry about the copyright. So now to our demonstration. For those of you who do not have a handout, we'll be showing you everything you need on the screen on the right-hand side. For those of you who do have the handout, you can look at page 2 for a more detailed look at the standards that we're going to be working with, and pages 3 through 5, the published materials we're going to work with in this demonstration. As you can see here, it's Ventures Book 2, Unit 2 from Cambridge. These are the instructions that we're going to use in our demonstration and that you will use in your practices and hopefully in your application activities. We're going to start with the first step. Read the standard, read the level-specific standard, and unpack the level-specific standard. So following the instructions for step 1, we read the standard, which is up at the top, determine central ideas or themes of a text, and analyze their development, summarize the key supporting details and ideas. Then we read the level-specific standard, which you can find here in the box, and we're at level A. Identify the main topic and retell the key details. Then the next instruction is to unpack it. Unpacking is identifying, underlining, and numbering the distinct and important parts of the level-specific standard. In the case of Reading Anchor 2, Level A, Sylvia and I think there are two main parts, identifying the main topic and retelling key details. So to unpack, we underline the key elements of each part and number them in order to keep track of which materials correspond to these specific key elements. Don't worry about writing this down. You can find the answer key to this on page 6 of your handout. So now we're going to step 2. Review published materials and identify the activities that meet the level-specific standard. So those of you without a, those of you with a handout, open to page 3, which is a page, as I said, from Ventures. And those of you without a handout, as soon as Marion moves to our next screen, you will see the handout over on the right-hand side. During the demo, I will be scrolling through, but during the practice, you'll be able to have access to scroll. And I'm waiting for that to come up, but I will go ahead as there it is. So we'll put it at the same place you see on the left. And here we are. Good. So if you look at section 2, page 3 on the materials, you will see the reading. Both the title question, what are your future goals, and the reading tip, which says read quickly to get the main idea, focus learners' attention on identifying the main idea. So here on our chart, which you can see over on the left-hand side of your screen, you will see we have written here under Identify the Main Topic, Exercise 2, Title of Reading, and Reading Tip. So this is how we're keeping track of which exercises meet the element Identify the Main Topic. So I'm going to scroll down here to Exercise 3 after you read, because we want to see if the student is asked to retell key details in these published materials. So if you look here at section 3 on page 3 of your handout, you'll see that the student is asked about the key details in the comprehension questions and is asked to retell them in writing by answering the questions. So on our chart over here on the left-hand side, we've identified exercises 3A and 3B as having met Part 2 of the level-specific standard retell key details. So now in step 3, we're going to develop, or in this case identify, supplementary activities for elements of the level-specific standard that are not met by the published materials. Or in this case, if they are met by the materials, which we did see in the last section, what needs to be enhanced, or what could be enhanced. So Ventures Book 2 has met the level-specific standard in both elements, but we can enhance it in a few ways. We could ask the teacher to ask questions about the main idea and elicit where the students found the main idea, as you can see here in the chart. Students call out main topic of paragraph and teacher writes it on the board. Another possibility is for the teacher to ask questions. Where did you find the main idea? And the possible answers are the title, the first sentence. We found it's a good idea to let students know where they can usually find the main idea. And so that's why we've put that here. So that's the demo for our reading, and Sylvia is going to walk you through the demonstration for writing Anchor 5.
Thank you, Lori. And we're going to use the same instructions. You're going to get very familiar with these instructions. You're going to read the standard, review the published materials, and then develop supplementary activities. If you're looking at the writing, they're going to be on pages 4 and 5 of your handout. But first, let's take a closer look at that anchor. This is the writing process anchor. And if you look at the level A, it's saying with guidance and support on a topic, and let you see it a little clearer here. Focus on a topic, respond to questions and suggestions from peers, and add details. Again, these are we're scaffolding to reach that goal. And when Lori and I, what we're going to be doing now is unpacking that standard. When Lori and I did it, we felt that there were 4 key elements. Guidance and support was 1, 2 was focus on a topic, 3 respond to questions, suggestions from peers, and 4 add details. There's no right or wrong answer. You might have combined these in a different way and get 3 key elements. If you only have 1 key element, you might want to keep looking because these are very packed standards. And if you get too many, it makes it very difficult to review the materials. But it's not a right or wrong. So from here, we're going to go to the next step. And that next step, as Marion goes back, is where you'll look at your handout, pages 4 and 5. And if you aren't able to have a handout, you're going to be looking at thank you, Lori. You're going to be looking at the writing on the right-hand side. Some of you have been asking, I don't have my handout, or where am I going to get my handout? You're going to have an opportunity at the end of this webinar also to download the handout. And I realize it's a little small to look at, but we'll guide you through it. So what we are doing now is we're looking for the elements that meet the standard. And we completed this chart, and the first thing we were looking for was, is there guidance and support for the lesson? And we found that in 1A and 1B, where they were doing pre-writing and the writing model. We also see it in C and D, which tell us these areas here where they're analyzing the model. And let me move it down a little bit. So you can see that they got a model, then they analyzed the model, and so they're getting support to begin to write. Also, the next thing is a focus topic, and in this very small print you can see their topic was your goal. And then the last key element that we found here was on suggestions respond to questions and suggestions, and there is a section 3A and 3B. They read to each other, and there's questions they can use for self-review or peer review. So now we're ready for step 3. And I hope you're thinking or you're remembering, because you're going to use these steps over and over. This is where the fun part is for most of us. Okay, well, what can we do to make these materials better? We're teachers and we're always looking for those things. And there is key element 4 that says to add details. And they've been getting these suggestions from their peers. And we've heard in presentations we've done this with before that there should be a direction line that tells students rewrite. Most of us as teachers will have our students rewrite, because even from the beginning it's an important strategy, but it's good to have it right there where everybody sees it. And then as an additional activity, we thought about how great it would be to share this revised paragraph on the wall to classmates, with family members, because you always want to have your students aware of audience. Okay, Lori, I think that takes care of the writing one.
So now we're ready for the practice. Having seen us demonstrate the activities, you're now ready to do the same thing. For those of you who don't have a handout, again, we'll be showing you everything you need on the screen, but this time you'll be able to scroll through the materials yourself using the bars on the right and the bottom of the little screen on the right. Those of you who do have the handout, page 2 for a more detailed look at the standards, and pages 7 through 10 to see the published materials. And the published materials that you'll be looking at on pages 7 through 10 are from Read All About It, Book 2, Unit 6. Okay, now in reading practice step 1, you'll unpack the level-specific standard. Read the level-specific standard for level B, which is determine the main idea of a text, recount the key details, and explain how they support the main idea. Then in a minute, when you see the layout, you'll be filling out 2 chat boxes. One, in the first one, you'll be answering how many key elements this level-specific standard has. And in the second box, you will be writing the key elements that describe what students are required to do for this standard. And those key elements are usually start with verbs, and you can just write the verb, or you can write the whole thing if you prefer. So go ahead over here in the bottom box, how many key elements are there, and in the right, write the verbs you find for each of the key elements. We're going to give you 2 minutes to do that.
And Marion's going to play some snazzy music for you.
I actually don't see any music on this one. I guess I forgot to put music in here. I'll have to sing for you.
Okay, sing, Marion. Ooh, we're getting some good
Oh, yeah, right.
So it looks like this has been very easy for you. I guess we did a good job in our demo. So all of you, 100% of you, put that there were 3 elements, and every one of you got the verbs right or spelled out the whole thing. And I'm going to show you what Sylvia and I got. Number 1, determine the main idea. Number 2, recount the key details. And number 3, explain how they support the main idea. Very good, everyone. Thank you so much for paying such close attention. So now we'll go to reading practice step 2. And you're going to be using, again, pages 7 through 10 in the handout. And you'll be analyzing these published materials, as I said, that come from Read All About It, Book 2. For For this practice, you'll review the published materials and identify the activities that meet the level-specific standard for each of the 3 elements we unpacked in Practice 1. Remember that you may not be able to find activities for each element in these demonstration materials or in these practice materials or in the textbooks that you'll be using when you do the application activity. Remember that those of you who are using this screen on the right, you can scroll through using the bars, both at the side and at the bottom if you need to see it a little bit better. I'm going to move it over for you right here. Hopefully I did. So you're going to use the chat boxes to write the activities that you find in the published materials. You're going to scroll through or look through the handout or scroll through the activities and look for something an exercise that determines the main idea, one that recounts key details, and one that explains how to support the main idea. In this textbook, you'll see that each of the activities start with are named by a name rather than a number, as in Sylvia's materials. Read about it. What did you read before you read? So just put the name of it in the box, the name of the activity.
Yeah, and this is Sylvia, and I noticed some of you are actually being wonderful students and putting the main idea, but what we want you to do is to look at the activities that are there and point out to us which activities get to that determining the main idea, and which activities support recounting key details, and which activities explain how to support the main idea. So you'll want to put the heading of the activity, some descriptor that way. Does that make more sense?
So for example, over here on the left, before you read is an activity, is the name of an activity. So type the name of the activity for each of the 3 elements.
Oh, and I see
you,
you're
Sylvia.
doing that now. Great.
Okay. Great job, everyone. You really took a lot of time to find your answers, and that's really terrific. Most of you, for number one, found for determine the main idea, wrote what did you read, although we had a variety of answers for that one. And certainly there's no right answer, no one right answer, I should say, because you may find it in a number of different places. So Sylvia and I agree that we did find it in the what did you read exercise, and many of you found it in other places as well. In terms of recount the key details, most of you wrote read again, and some of you also put show you understand. I think Sylvia and I also agree with you that in both of those places there were elements of recounting the key details. For number three, the focus was show you understand. We realized that checking the yes/no box requires the students to decide if the statement supports the main idea, and there's also a box in that activity which requires students to show evidence from the text, which was one of the main shifts that Sylvia mentioned, the main shifts in instruction that Sylvia mentioned during the overview. So that activity sort of gets to a couple of things, explaining how to support the main idea as well as showing evidence. So everyone did a fabulous job. I hope that was useful to you in figuring out how ESL materials can support these key elements. So now let's go to practice 3. Or I should say practice step 3. And we're going to look at developing key steps to supplement reading materials. So it says here develop, and actually I'm going to ask you to identify. We don't really, we're not giving you the time to actually develop the activity, but if you can identify or name a supplementary activity for the elements of the level-specific standard that are not met by published materials. In this case, you found elements for each of the 3, but perhaps you'd like to name some things that could enhance the elements that you found. So in the boxes below, please write ideas for supplementary activities that meet the level-specific standard and enhance them in this case for each of the 3 elements. Determine main idea, recount key details, and explain how to support main ideas. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to do this. Fill in the 3 boxes below.
It happened once to me too during this presentation. You click the red on the top right corner and exit, and then just come right back in. There should be a window behind it. Is that right, Marion?
That's right. Sorry, I got kicked out too, so glad you guys are still here.
Yeah. You want to tell them again? I think some are asking how do they leave because they're not.
Okay, so just click the red X on the top right and then come right back in, go to the email with the link. Not the red dot, the red X, just like you close any program. Tish, sorry. Lots of you are doing that. Coming right back in, very good.
When you come back in, oh good, I see people now are coming back in and seeing it.
Oh my goodness, you guys are so fast. Sorry that there's 60 of you to let back in.
Can you please repeat the instructions, Marion? Someone's saying?
Yes, go to the red X at the top right corner of your screen and just close the meeting. And then if you're on a Windows machine, you'll see a white browser window right behind this meeting and it says open a new meeting window. Just click on that and it'll bring you right back in. Or go to the link again for the meeting, which is connect.otan.us/instructorsforum1, and it'll bring you right back in. But you are doing very well. 54 out of 60 are already back in here. 55. So Sylvia, I would say go ahead and we'll get everyone back in.
So some of you didn't have a chance to do this, but I think we'll just go ahead anyway so you get the idea of it, and we'll use the examples that were written here. So what I asked you to do again was to write down your ideas for supplementary activities that meet the level-specific standard. Again, we found ones that met it in the materials, but you might have wanted to do some enhancement. So one of the first ones here, we've got Jamie. Oh, well, I just lost that. Sorry. Jamie, have learners reread the text to see which words and phrases appear in numerous paragraphs, and that would be something they could do for the main idea. Sylvia and I came up with similar. We thought find some sentences in the reading that tell the main idea and perhaps combine them into one main idea sentence. Supan said maybe using a sentence starter. This article was about X. And that would be another way to have students determine the main idea. In terms of recounting key details, Portia says have the students describe what happens at Daniel's acupuncture appointments. So those would be the key details. Something Sylvia and I came up with was perhaps using a graphic organizer that had, let's say, 4 spaces for the key details, and then have students list or identify the key details in that graphic organizer. We only have one example of explain how to support the main idea, probably because so many of you were kicked out. Again, Cindy recommends using a graphic organizer or cluster diagram. We agree with that. Cindy, that's a great idea. And you could use the graphic organizer to explain how each key detail supports the main idea. Good job. So sorry that you were kicked out. Glad you're back in here. And now Sylvia will lead you through the writing practices.
Okay, thank you, Lori. I hope you're with us. We're going to again follow the same steps that we did before. So you're going to look at this writing anchor 5, and now remember we're at B, the second level of the progression, and you're unpacking the standard and you're looking for the key elements. So on the bottom right hand, you're putting the number of key elements that you see, and on the right hand side you're writing the verbs or just the key words that will guide you in looking through your materials. So I see people are not seeing it again. Oh, good. Got some people in. Remember, you have to go out and come in. I'm so sorry about this. I see many. Now I've gotten back in. And I'll wait for you to begin typing those key words. I'm going to give it a little more time because so many people had to go out and come back in. There is images on the screen, so if you're not seeing anything, you need to exit out and then come back in. Okay, good. I'm seeing some people that are now writing the key elements, and we're getting a lot of agreement on those key words. Okay, I'm going to show you what Lori and I got. There was more of you voted for 3. Lori and I actually found 4. Remember, this isn't a right or wrong, it's just the way we broke it up. So we said key element 1 was guidance and support from peers and others. Key element 2 was develop strength in writing by planning. And key element 3 was by revising. And 4 is by editing. And what I'm really happy to see when I go over and look at the key elements, that's the part you're doing really well. You're doing everything really well, but it's great to see you pull out those words, because this is the exercise that allows you now to go look at the materials and begin to find activities that meet these keywords. So we've done step 1, and now we're going to do step 2. Hold your breath. Here we go. Okay, in step 2, if you have a handout, you're looking in your handout on pages, let me get this right for you. On page 10 is the right activity, and you're going to look for activities that address the 4 key elements. We get to win because we're giving the presentation, so you're looking for 4 key elements: guidance and support, planning, revising, and editing. Remember, you're identifying the activity that you see. Also, since this is a reading text, go back and look through pages 7 through 9 and also see what kind of support might be there for the writing activity. So we're going to go ahead and have you review the published material, identify the activities that meet. Remember, if you don't have a handout, you are going to be able to scroll through the handout on the right-hand side. And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do this. And I know Tish said every time I change the screen, I get kicked out. I'm so sorry about this. Keep working. Some asked me to just repeat the instructions again because they were kicked out. What you're doing is the same activity that you worked on for the reading. You're looking at those activities that are in the reading in pages 7 through 10 or on the right-hand side, and seeing which meet the key elements listed on the bottom: guidance, support, planning, revising, and editing. I'm going to go ahead and because most of you found some guidance and support for activities for guidance and support, um, and the model, the word study. I like that some of you said going back to discussing the picture, because then it would make them think about the words they need. And I think that's a good thing, that even though you're doing a writing activity, you might want to go back and check what they've done in the previous activity. You don't always find it just there. And then in the planning, definitely some of you are commenting on the questions, and those questions are really key to helping them structure. And then of course they have the model. They have a model that they can look at. But yes, Susan, like, answer those 4 questions, and then they actually see a model of how it's organized. And some of you are already thinking ahead to the next activity, because there wasn't a lot in there for key element 3 or key element 4, but you're already coming up with your suggestions there. We're not going to actually do writing practice 3, but some of you have already begun it. Some have suggested that you would have to supplement this, but you can use those questions in groups that we've done this with before. They've suggested to use the questions that were in the writing and make some form of a checklist or a graphic organizer, and use those to organize your to check for their writing. Again, if you do a graphic organizer like some people suggested for the reading, then that also can become a way to revise and edit. I've always loved using the graphic organizers with my students, because it gives them a way to give concrete feedback. So great ideas and great suggestions, and I'll turn it back over to you, Lori. I'm not seeing the screen now, and I think, okay, we,
So
in the slide is, if they're seeing, if you're seeing the slide in front of you, all we're doing now is just telling you what we have tried to do today, and that we hope that it's giving you a tool to begin to look at these college and career readiness standards. And we hope that from it you'll be able to take this home and do this with the agency, with the within your own agency.
So looking at this application activity, we'd like you to select a textbook lesson that you use in your classroom or that your agency uses, and then select a corresponding CCR standard. I think it's best if you use the ones we worked with today, Reading Standard 2 and Writing Anchor 5, although in your bibliography, which you'll download either now or you've downloaded it already, there is a list of the CCR standards, and you can find other standards to look at. You can use page 11 on your handout as your exercise sheet, and then follow these steps. So we've met our objectives for today, and now we'd like to move on to any questions you might have. Sylvia?
Well, we got one question, because I said in the beginning about the we weren't really going into the text-dependent questions and evidence, and how does this since these standards weren't developed specifically for ESL, does that mean that there might be different standards or different processes? And I want you to know that I was just at a training with Okta in Phoenix, and it was made clear to us that these are the standards for all adults. But they also recognize that special training will be needed for our ESL students, and that will be coming, but it's important for you to know about these standards and to know that there is consensus about career and college goals. And I hope what you found out today with working with them is we're doing some of this already in our texts that we love and work with, and it was fairly easy for you when you could see it on the screen to supplement those activities and to keep thinking how you could build toward these skills and integrate these skills. Is there another question you see there, Lori?
While we're looking for questions, I'm just going to interrupt and say you can see the file share box on the bottom right of your screen. Hopefully you can see that. If you click on that Common Core webinar handout, that's the handout that I emailed to you. So if you already have it, don't worry about it. If you didn't get it or you don't have it, you can click on that and then select Save to My Computer. It's probably going to open up a window behind the window that you're looking at now. So you'll just click on download when you go to that window and get that document.
Someone was asking about whether these standards line up with the European
European framework?
European framework, and Lori, I don't know about that. I haven't heard about that in any of the trainings I've gone to or anything. But one thing I did mention in the beginning is that the research for these standards are based on top performing countries, because we want our students to be able to succeed in a global economy. But the exact tie-in, we'll try to get some information back to you on that.
So we've come to the end of our session, and I don't see any more burning questions, but we will be looking at the chat pod just to make sure we haven't missed anything, and we'll ask CalPro to send you the answers. We thank you for your participation, and thank you for your patience as we went through some technical difficulties, but it looks like from the chat that many of you were able to understand the process that we went through, and we hope that you can use it at your own agencies. Feel free to email us if you have further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori and Sylvia. Everyone, I hesitate to even say this, but you can give them a round of applause by clicking on your status icon up there in the window and choosing applause. They did a terrific job. I'm going to close the meeting now, and when I do, you're going to be taken to another window with an evaluation form, and we'd really appreciate it if you fill that out. I also want to congratulate you. You guys did a terrific job of managing the technology and getting right back in when you got kicked out or when you lost the visual. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Marion.
Thank you, Marion.
Enjoy your weekend. You're welcome, and thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.